Lake City Council meeting, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, I'll need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Bennett, seconded by Creighton. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda, including the following. Approval of City Council meeting minutes of January 5th, 2025. Approval of the bills and claims. Appointment of Tony Nelson, at-large City Council member, as City Council representative to the Landfill of North Iowa Board. Appointment of Creighton Schmidt, at-large City Council member, as City Council representative to the Veterans Memorial Golf Course Board. Appointment of Beth Ann Schumacher, Ward 3 City Council member, as City Council representative to the Wellness Center Board. Approval of early retirement agreement with Deb Eskeldson and authorizing Mayor Ebling to sign the agreement excuse me, on behalf of the city. Appointment of Dana Brandt to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term ending December 31st, 2030. Approval of tax abatement application from Daniel and Carol Rubish, 109 Stonebrook Court, and the following licenses and permits. Liquor license, Class B retail alcohol license, Dollar General, that is a renewal. Sign erector's license, KJ Signs, LLC, that is new. Cigarette permits, Brothers Market, new. Council can have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Beth Ann, seconded by Tony. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now is the opportunity for citizens to address the council on items that are not on the agenda. In conformance with the rules of procedure in Iowa Open Meetings Law, no action or discussion can occur on items presented during the forum. Please walk to the lectern, state your name, first and last, and your address so the city clerk may enter them into the minutes. Please keep your comments no longer than 5 minutes. None appearing. Move on to unfinished business, which we have none. 6, new business, Surf District Oaks Hotel Development Project, introduction review. Mr. Steve Deers, City Administrator.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to see you all tonight. Yes, tonight we're looking to ultimately set public hearing for the consideration of the development agreement on the Oak Hotels project. We had a workshop here on January 8th to really talk about that project in whole, and had a fine presentation by the developer, review by city on the various aspects of the project. And we kind of left that meeting with a little bit more discussion and a gap on how we wanted to provide a funding incentive package. And so over the course of the next several days, lots of discussion happened. And some of the key aspects were changing that forgivable loan to a reimbursement of hotel motel tax in an equal amount. And so that's something that we've incorporated into the new agreement. We also talked about the city infrastructure work that was going to be anticipated, which is going to be about $1.3 million. I talked about breaking out some of that and having the developer cover some of those engineering, legal, and administrative costs. And so it really breaks out to be about a $1,050,000 construction anticipated cost for the city, and then about $250,000 of potential soft costs for the developer. And so that has been incorporated into the agreement. We also talked about the land that the city has acquired for the project, which is not quite $1 million, but pretty close to $1 million. And there's probably about $200,000 worth of that land that the city is actually keeping for use, whether it be 7th Avenue right-of-way or aspects of public property there with the project. So with those key changes discussed, we've put together an updated development agreement, and I'm just going to run through that pretty briefly. We looked at that in detail at our workshop, and so I just want to point out things that have changed so that you can see the differences here. So the copy that you have before you should have some yellow highlights, And you can see there on that first page, about the fifth whereas down, talks about how the use of hotel motel revenue would be used. And so this is going to be, the idea is the hotel motel tax that this hotel would generate would be used to help rebate back and help offset that $500,000 incentive. So the forgivable loan language has been removed, and the hotel motel rebate has effectively been put in place. So bottom of the page there, we talk about acquisition dates and different things, June 30th of 2026. They have some of those things completed. Page 2, we talk about the project investment. That's the number we looked at before, not less than $15 million of investment. Project completion is anticipated to be done much sooner than this, but we have an end date of November 30th, 2027. Again, certificate of occupancy at the bottom of page 2, that's at November 30th, 2027 date. We get to the top of page 3, we're talking about minimum assessment value. And so in speaking with the assessor, the estimate we've gotten back from them was about a $7.7 million assessment on the project is what they're anticipating. So we're putting in there a $7 million project. The good thing, I guess, for the city, like I mentioned before, is we don't have anything tied to that assessment as far as us needing to use that for various purposes. So there's no, that number is just in there for real, posterity and to understand what the value of the project's going to be. It doesn't really tie back to any of our funding particularly. At the bottom of page 3, then you see the number 6. That did say forgivable loan. Now it's hotel motel tax, and describes those returns. Skip to page 5. Reimbursement of city infrastructure design costs. So this is the street work. It'll be a city street project. We'll have several alternates in that project, which will help us be able to address any particular cost overruns if we see any. We're not anticipating. It's a really good bidding environment, so we anticipate that the bids for the project will come in well. But as you can see in there, that there is an amount of reimbursable cost from the developer of up to $250,000 for those engineering, legal, and administrative costs. At the bottom, it talks about the infrastructure more in depth, the $1.3 million estimated total project. We talk about if the project comes in higher. We had talked about some type of cost share if it goes over a certain amount. And from our discussions last week, I don't think there was a lot of comfort around that from either side. So we have removed that, but in talking to Matt, and he'll go into any detail on that, I think he feels pretty confident that we're going to come in under that number. So there should be options there that we won't have to worry about a cost share for overage. Page 6 talks about payments. This is the TIF rebate piece. So this is the $1.7 million in a TIF rebate. Those are paid over the course of 10 years, 2 payments a year. So that's why you see the 20 semi-annual economic development tax increment payments. So those are the changes in the development agreement. Otherwise, the rest of it largely is the same, but it does address those changes and the work put forward to kind of find that different path. So, entertain any questions you might have.
Thank you. Council, any questions? All right. Thanks, Steve. Review of proposed city financial commitments. Jacob Widman, Director of Finance and Administrative Services.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'll be kind of walking through that pink sheet in your packet. As Steve alluded to, we had the proposal that we kind of talked about on the 8th, and then we made some changes to that, and so then I'll kind of be going through the numbers tonight on city costs on the project. For the first set of costs, looking at land costs of what the city has purchased up there, we've spent $756,000 on land purchases up there, and then we've done some demo and some improvement on the lands up there. So total land cost to the city is $996 and some change. As Steve mentioned, we will be retaining a portion of that land for the 7th Avenue right-of-way and the street going through there. And so we estimate that to be right at $200,000. So then That gets us down to a net land incentive to the developer of $796,000, $132.31. The next portion of incentive to the developer is in the form of a property tax rebate. So this would be new property taxes that are generated from the project. And so we are looking at doing a 10-year, 90% rebate on that increment value of the property. And that is going to be up to a max of $1.7 million. And as I said, that's a max. So if valuation ends up coming in a little under that, it might not get up that high, but we have set that at that max of 1.7. The next portion of incentive to the developer then is in form of a hotel motel tax rebate. And so we are looking at doing a 5-year, 100% rebate with a maximum of $500,000 on that. We do anticipate, based on projections, that will be reached before the 5th year. But we did want to make sure that we had a little bit of wiggle room in there. So once again, that's a maximum rebate. So if they don't reach that, it could be below that. Kind of trying to tie the incentives back to how the project performs, so that it's money coming that's generated by the project that's going back into the project. So then kind of the subtotal on developer incentives comes into just under $3 million. We do have certain city infrastructure costs associated with the project. As Steve mentioned, we're anticipating those to be right around $1.3 million. That includes the engineering, legal, and administrative, which the developer has agreed to cover. And so we're estimating that at being $250,000, bringing the net infrastructure costs to the city of $1,050,000 for the infrastructure portion. So total net cost to the city then is just over $4 million. That is about 26% of the estimated developer investment on this project. And I will say there's been a lot of comparisons made with this project to the Marriott project out on the highway, and that 26% is right in line with where we were at on that project. So, are there any questions for me on any of those numbers?
Council, any questions? All right, thanks, Jacob, appreciate it. Review of proposed project timeline, Matt Stedding, city engineer.
Mr. Mayor, Council, well, we made it to this point, all alive and well, so we're doing something right. So I'm just gonna go through a few things here tonight. You know, over this past year, there's been a lot of detailed process going to this project, coordinating with staff, development team, as well as letting the public weigh in on a lot of the options that were presented before us. So we think that we have a path forward here to realign 7th Avenue North, which is the same option 4 that was previously placed in front of both Planning and Zoning and City Council last year. From an engineering standpoint, this option best balances constructability, public access, and pedestrian safety, while also aligning with the overall site plan for the hotel and public amenities. In terms of public improvements, like Steve said here earlier, what we're estimating the total cost at approximately $1.3 million. And that estimate includes the realignment of 7th Avenue North, including both roadway construction and associated grading and drainage work, roadway and utility improvements along North Shore Drive. This starts right now at the existing intersection of where 7th Avenue currently is in North Shore, and will extend west through the EOR of Beach Drive, and that will include both upgrades to water, sanitary, and storm sewer as well. We also have an additional 19 public parking stalls along Beach Drive, so this will help reduce parking pressure for those local businesses in that area. And importantly, we have that plaza area and park space. This is a major community-facing component of the project. This amenity to be designed and enjoyed year-round to strengthen the public realm along the lakefront. So the public infrastructure portion of the $1.3 million accounts for roughly $1,050,000 on the city side. That's what it's going to take to get all of the city public improvements put into this project. And the remaining 250,000 will be the EL&A portion that Steve hit on. That's the engineering, legal, and administrative, which will be covered by the development group. So one important note that I just want to say here pertaining to city land cost is really the way that we've positioned the 7th Avenue realignment. It effectively utilizes approximately 25% of that acquired land as new city right-of-way. So roughly 250 of that original value is directly supporting the public infrastructure footprint through converting it over to city right-of-way for this project. That 250,000 helps the economics of the project, bringing that incentive structure closer to that 4 million mark, which is what a lot of council previously expressed interest in moving closer towards. From a project accounting standpoint, I think that is a meaningful offset, just to note here. Finally, I just really want to be transparent about this schedule moving forward. This is a very strong project for Clear Lake, and I think it's going to be an awesome amenity for all of the residents of Clear Lake and moving forward. But I just want to take a quick second here. We can just run through this project schedule so you guys can just get a better understanding of what we're dealing with here. So we're looking to set that public hearing date, bid letting, for March 16th, 2026. We'll follow that up by advertising for bids on March 17th, shortly thereafter that public hearing goes out. So we're going to publish notice of hearing and letting on plans between that March 24th and April 10th timeframe. That posting of notice to bidders will go out to plan rooms, construction and lead generation services, as well as post to the city website by March 27th of 2026. So the bid letting will take place April 16th at 11 a.m. here at City Hall. That public hearing of approved plans and specifications will be on the following council meeting, April 20th. And then at that same meeting, we will look to award the contract. The next meeting following that, May 4th, will be the approval of the contract and bonds, and that will leave construction able to begin that following day after that. So there's planning and zoning meetings mixed into this, as well as council meetings, so just wanted everybody to know kind of what we're up against here. So this is a very tight schedule, but it is possible. These projects between the city infrastructure portion as well as the hotel are going to be completed concurrently. So it is going to be a very fun and eventful year. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Matt, just going as a reminder, what is some of the infrastructure that we would have needed to replace because of other issues with water mains and
Yeah, sure.
we saw some pictures. I'd share some of that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we have our vast amount of water main along North Shore Drive is 4-inch, and it has a lot of particulates, that are, that pipe size is actually probably closer to a 3-inch when you factor that in. So we're going to be making an effort over the next few years to try to recondition and replace a lot of our 4-inch water main to get that up to par with current standards and what we need for the city to be viable from a fire standpoint, for one, as well as a pressure standpoint for local residents. So if none of the additional hotel or any of those improvements were being conducted, we would still look to replace this whole entire North Shore portion from the existing 7th through Beach Drive to the end of return on the west side. And that would include upgrades from an existing 4-inch water to a 12-inch, which is what we're going to install. And then we have sanitary sewer upgrades in that area as well that is needing to be replaced. So we're going to hit all that as we do the roadway portion. So that's a decent chunk right in that area that will definitely help to set us up so that we can forge in the future to continue down North Shore with those farther improvements. That help?
Yeah, very much so.
It's a tight timeline.
There. I will continue to stress that as we move forward.
And I guess I will say, that's predicated on us setting public hearing tonight for that
Right.
that first meeting in February
Yeah.
and keeping it moving that way, so,
Time for bids as well. I mean, it looks like it's ideal if we're gonna do it at any point. That seems to be the dates that worked usually.
This is a very competitive bidding environment this year. You know, no one can say if it would be the same next year, but there's a number of reasons why we should be moving on this at this timeline.
Great. Council, any other questions, comments? All right, thanks, Matt. Council. Bennett?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, very much. I think this is a very good agreement, and it's a great project. I think you had it right in the paper, Mayor, when you called it the crown jewel, I believe, in the overall project. And so I want to thank the development group. These projects are always very challenging, and I think the agreement reflects a set of compromises. So my thanks to the development group, and I'd like to thank our city staff who have been an integral part of this process, and I think have done just a fantastic job. And so I really want to thank our staff for all the work that you have put in on it. And then finally, Mayor, I'd like to thank you for your leadership on the project and promoting it, and the council. I believe everybody's really contributed to this process, and so my thanks. Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I would like to echo that as well. Having a chance to sit down with everyone and talk one-on-one, and the city staff was so helpful with that in terms of making everything fit in place after we were kind of overwhelmed, you know, at our last meeting with so many figures. This was very helpful, and I'm very, very pleased with the collaboration that's taken place and how we're going to be able to put this all together, because I'm excited to see the hotel up there. Thank you very much, everyone.
Tony?
I don't think I can add anything that they haven't already said, so I would say just thanks to all the parties involved. I think we're gonna forge ahead and have something really positive for the community and something to be proud of. So appreciate everyone's work in this.
Thanks, Tony. So I echo a lot of everyone's statements. That works too, Tony. Yeah, this has been man, under a lot of scrutiny, which is good, by the council, looking at the dollars and cents, and I appreciate that. And I'm just glad to see this moving one step closer, and hoping that it'll open before November of 2027. But no. But yeah, thank you. I know the city staff put in a lot of work, and the development group was more than welcome on any suggestions that came up throughout this entire process, which goes back quite a few months. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So therefore, we'll move on. We'll need a motion to approve Resolution 2601, a resolution setting a date of meeting at which it is proposed to approve a development agreement with the Oaks Hotel and Clear Lake LLC, including annual appropriation tax increment payments by council.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Beth Ann, seconded by Creighton. Roll call. Creighton.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Beth Ann.
Yes.
Tony.
Yes.
Is approved. Moving on, 4th Avenue South Multimodal Corridor Project, introduction, Matt Stedding, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Just give a brief introduction here. So this is the 4th Avenue South multimodal project that was the $300,000 planning grant that the city received, and we entered into a contract with SEH back at the beginning of 2024. We are now at the stage of starting to look into project grants, and Becky Schwab is here this evening with SEH, and she's going to help explain the build grant, which we have an option to apply for this project. So I will let her come up and introduce that, and if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer afterwards too.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Matt. So this evening, I want to take you through just a brief review of how that project came together, what it's looking like right now, and then we'll talk a little bit about the build grant and the opportunity that we have there. So our agenda tonight will be to review the project as designed, review the general facts of how the build grant works, review the merit criteria and how our project applies, and then review what you want to do as far as a funding request. So during project planning, there were a few main factors that the city was looking for on this corridor. One of the main things was the idea of beautification coming into the city. Currently, we have 2 entrances to the city from the east, and neither one of them is as inviting as the city may like them to be. So one of the main points was to give us a better representation for people entering the community, including adding lighting, planting, and signage. Also, we took a look at safety, how to make this multimodal and allow for bicycles to access through this path. And then we're also looking at sustainability and user needs. So to start with, we have a few changes proposed to the roadway configuration, and some of them are pretty significant, especially for Clear Lake, where we haven't done some of this stuff before. Starting on the very west end near the lake, we're not changing much there other than we're going to widen out that sidewalk to make it a little bit easier to get down to that last stretch of the lake. As we move into the next 2 blocks leading up to 8th Street, no changes to the street there either, but we are looking at adding a bike path that would be off-street so we can connect to this trail on South Shore Drive. Then we move into kind of our first big structural change there, which is to do a roundabout at 8th Street. This would be a single-lane roundabout, which means we're necking down any place where there's more than 1 lane coming from each direction into it. But a single-lane roundabout tends to be the easiest type of roundabout to navigate. So we're looking at this both as a safety perspective and as a way to keep traffic flowing through that intersection, which is currently a 4-way stop. Finally, we do continue that 10-foot wide trail all the way through that roundabout and out to the very end of the project at Trolley Trail. So as we cross over 8th, you will see that the configuration of the roadway has changed from 4 lanes to each direction to a 3-lane configuration. This has 1 lane of travel each way with a center turn lane. This configuration has been tested with our traffic experts, and essentially what we find is that oftentimes adding that center turn lane allows almost as much traffic as having a 4-lane, but in this case we're actually pulling the extent of the roadway in, reducing the total amount of pavement, which reduces the costs of maintenance over time, allows us to put a 10-foot wide trail off of the actual street, which makes it safer for a more bigger variety of users. And it does help renew some of that pavement because we'll be removing some of the pavement and replacing it with new curb and gutter. So overall, it's just helping with the maintenance along there and the state of repair. South side of the road, continuing a 5-foot sidewalk all the way out to 20th Street. Then we run into our next 2 interesting pieces here. 20th Street roundabout. The reason for the roundabout at 20th Street is because this goes to the school and the wellness center and the aquatic center. This is a pretty major intersection, and it's a place where we're going to have a lot of newer, younger drivers trying to navigate those turns. So a great place to add some extra safety, as well as 24th Street, which was determined to be the most dangerous intersection on this stretch. That was where the most crashes were. There were a couple of pretty severe injuries on that one, although no fatalities as of yet, which is great. However, this will improve the safety, and it gives us a place to allow bicycles to cross now to the south side of the road as we make that connection further to the east where we connect to Trolley Trail on the opposite side of I-35. So just a couple visualizations. I think some of you have probably seen this before as we've been through the process, but looking at the 24th Street roundabout, seeing how we're kind of making what's currently kind of an rural-looking entrance into a more urban type of entrance, tree-lined streets, curb and gutter coming into that roundabout with a nice big Clear Lake sign. Here's another visual representation of that, with a sailboat being kind of a centerpiece there, and then that sign not only is going to be lit up and visible from the interstate, but portions of that also kind of tie it back to the downtown. So it would have kind of the same rock face as the seawall, tying all of this back to the lake. 8th Street roundabout is going to have a similar design, just with putting those couple of sailboats in the middle and tying it all together, kind of that entire corridor from one end to the other. And 20th Street will be just kind of more of a natural planted type of roundabout. So I'm going to move on to the build grant, but I'll be happy to take questions about the project as we go through this. So the build grant is basically the same as the grant that we got to do the planning. It was called a RAISE grant when we applied for the planning grant. Different administration, they call it something different, has all the same type of rules, et cetera. So they've just changed the name of it and they've tweaked things just slightly in terms of what they're looking for in terms of merit. Build grant is a federal grant. They have $1.5 billion to award in funding. The award sizes for a rural project, which ours would be considered, is $1 million to $25 million. We fall well within that. So specifically, they try to divide it up 50-50 between rural and urban grants. So we're talking, when we're talking urban, we're like a Chicago or something like that. We would be considered rural just based on our size. There is a little bit of a map there just to the right showing where the Build 2025 awards were located throughout the country, and you can kind of see both the way they're spread out and also that it's a pretty good mix of urban and rural. One of the things that I will mention right away that is a little bit of a concern as we enter into this grant application is that one of the things they've identified as a focus point is opportunity zones. An opportunity zone is essentially an area of persistent poverty. Clear Lake is definitely not that, which is good news for us, and at the same time it makes it a little bit more difficult to get the grant because it's likely they're going to award some additional points to projects that do fall within those areas. However, being a rural community, we are eligible for up to 100% of the total project cost. So technically there's a zero match required, but I will talk about that a little bit more before I ask you to consider how much you would like to apply for in funding if you would like to support this. Deadline for turning in the application is February 24th of this year, and award would be June of 2026. So I'm going to try to run through these fairly quickly, but I do at least want to make mention. So the first hurdle for getting through the award process is to meet the 8 merit criteria. So essentially we have to respond to every single one of these items that I have listed. And I've got some slides that'll get into more depth on these. And then tier 2 is really the project readiness and benefit cost analysis. So we'll touch on that as well. One of the main grant criteria is safety, reducing fatalities or serious injuries and protecting non-motorized travelers. We do this really well. The roundabouts are great for reducing injuries related to accidents and providing non-motorized travelers a 10-foot wide off-street bike path. Not only is a safety aspect, but it does provide them an opportunity as well. I spoke a little bit earlier about environmental sustainability with reducing the amount of pavement that we have, reducing our stormwater runoff, as well as reducing our maintenance costs. And then adding the vegetation in as we go through the project not only beautifies it, but it does give us an opportunity for environmental sustainability. Quality of life. So again, that beautification and the addition of additional forms of transportation really plays in well to this, in addition to us being able to kind of bring people into the community and make it more active. So I'm going to start to repeat myself here with some of these items, but mobility and community connectivity, decreasing congestion by getting more traffic off the road by adding some opportunities for bicyclists, economic competitiveness and opportunity. We're starting to look at things like, can we reduce travel time, reduce the amount of time vehicles are sitting waiting at stop signs or stoplights, and then the beautification and visibility as we promote economic growth and tourism. And what I've included in the photo down here at the very bottom is one of my favorite ones that we've had throughout the project, which is that 24th Street intersection you can actually see from the interstate driving by. So you'll actually be able to see the Clear Lake sign and that big sailboat for people just driving by Clear Lake who don't normally stop in. And I think it gives us a great opportunity to present our community. Few more things to touch on the state of good repairs. We talk about reducing the amount of pavement, reconstructing the portions that are in the worst condition, and partnership and collaboration. So there were a lot of groups who initially supported our application for the RAISE grant. That included bicycling groups, chambers, legislators, and we'll be reaching out to those same people again if we want the grant to move forward in order to gain their support again. Our final merit criteria, which is going to be a little bit tougher, is they're looking for things like autonomous vehicles, new types of technologies, et cetera. So we may have to get a little bit creative here in what we're doing, but what they're really looking for is automation. So this one will be a little bit more of a challenge. We do have some ideas here in terms of the roundabouts are new for Clear Lake, not new technology in general, and potentially used for like drones, things like that during inspections would give us an opportunity to use some of those. Finally, project readiness and benefit cost analysis. So once we clear that initial hurdle of meeting their merit criteria, they start to analyze, is the project actually ready to go? We're positioned very well for this because we already have construction documents. That's not to say that we don't have an opportunity to make some final changes if there's some things we'd like to tweak before this actually goes to construction, but it does give us the opportunity to be ready to go. You go back one, Jen. Thanks. So financial completeness of the project funding, again, if we're applying for 100%, it's already there. If we want to do a match, we just need to make sure that's provided. And then the benefit cost analysis is currently underway. And essentially what that does is we're looking at the cost of construction versus the cost of potential savings. So if we're saving on accidents, if we're saving on injuries, especially severe ones, that's a great benefit to the community for the cost of construction. And finally, funding request. So here's kind of our big numbers point. And this is kind of what I'm going to ask for tonight is one, for your support in going forward with the grant if you wish us to do so, and then two, to get your feedback on how much you would like to request. So the estimated project costs at the time of the documents being prepared was $10.7 million in construction costs. We can ask for an additional 10% in funding for contingency, which I strongly recommend because we want to have that in our back pocket and we want them to fund it rather than coming out of our pocket. And then finally, construction oversight and updating design, which is another 10% on top of the total construction costs. That's pretty typical for a grant ask for the engineering fees. So if we were to request 100% of the total cost, that would be $13 million. The recommended request that we usually start with when we talk to people about doing a grant like this is about 80%. And the reason we do that is because it's often viewed as the city having some skin in the game to be able to say, okay, they've made a commitment to the project, we're willing to put our dollars in as well. So if you chose to go that way, that would be about $10.4 million from the request and about $2.6 million from the city portion. Again, completely up to you. You can go anywhere from 1% to 100% with your grant application. The other thing I will note briefly before I ask for some discussion, I believe we're just on to our last slide here, but we do feel strongly that we have a very strong project based on how it's currently meeting the merit criteria. And we also feel strongly that it's a good project based on the fact that they funded the initial planning phase. So the fact that they thought it was a good project going into planning and awarded it, we feel like it's probably going to be a good project to go forward with the construction, because why would they award a planning and then not support the construction of it actually being built? I'd be happy to take any questions or have any discussion.
Thank you. Just a quick question for you, Becky. If we could look at the South 8th roundabout again. I know there was a question I had about pedestrian traffic. Are there like sidewalks that go through there for everybody, or how does that work for pedestrian traffic at South 8th?
Let's see. There we go. That one would go back one, I think, would work. So what we're showing in this one, you can see kind of how the trail goes across, but actually there's crossings at all four corners. So we've got a median in between each one of those.
Oh.
So when the pedestrian crosses, they're crossing instead of, that's currently a 53-foot wide street. Crossing this now, they only have to cross about 12 feet before they get to that next island. Those islands will have curbs on them to deter the traffic from going up on top of them. So essentially we're shortening their crossing distance by down to about a quarter of what it was.
Okay, thank you. So that actually increases the safety profile, I assume, compared to the current layout of it.
Yep, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I can tell you as somebody who personally has used that intersection a few times, I like to run out there. Knowing when traffic is gonna go at that four-way stop sometimes is a little bit of a game of Frogger, so.
Right, right.
Under this scenario, you would only have to look one direction, and if you don't have any traffic coming from that way, you just have about a 12-foot stretch to make before you get to your next safe spot.
Yeah, that's great, because I know in our planning sessions that a lot of discussion about pedestrians and bike traffic, golf carts, and just ways to both increase the flow here, but also the safety profile for this road. So, thank you. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mayor.
So,
Mr. Mayor.
oh, you go ahead.
Okay. Just want to clarify, so the new proposed roundabout at 20th Street, because that was kind of an iffy one at one point, I remember, it's going to look very much like the one at 8th Street, because the one off 24th is going to be a little bit larger, correct?
So they actually get increasingly larger as you head to the
Increasingly larger.
east. So the one at 24th Street is the largest, with the intention that we're gonna have a ton of truck traffic through there. 20th Street gets slightly smaller, but again, still will be able to handle a full semi combination, so.
Okay.
And for that matter, they can also get through at 8th Street, it's just they're not gonna like it as much, it's gonna feel a little tighter.
A little tighter, okay.
The other thing that I would mention is that when we design the roundabouts, we also design with agricultural equipment in mind. So that was a discussion that we've had as well. So, for example, like a Terragator could drive through there if it needed to.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
A couple of questions, Becky. What was the other community on the one page you had of the initial build grant page? There is a rural community that has happened already. Where's that at, and what project was that? What community was that in?
I'm not sure if I've got that.
Looks like it's eastern central Iowa somewhere.
Cedar Rapids,
Cedar
yes,
Rapids?
Cedar
Okay.
Rapids,
Okay.
absolutely. And their project was not the same as ours, but it was an Iowa community that did receive the
It
build
wasn't
grant.
roundabouts, that
No.
type of, okay.
No,
All right.
it was not the same type of project, but they did receive one.
And maybe you've shared this with the city in the past, but I wasn't maybe privy to it, or what truck traffic data on that roundabouts? Do we have stats that say that roundabouts are safer for trucks and more vehicles with more than 2 axles and that sort of thing?
Yep, absolutely. So the data indicates that we have a significant amount of truck traffic there. I think it was probably around 20% of that first roundabout. But there are a couple features that we work into the roundabouts, and it's actually really specific to trucks. So one of those main features is we have a truck apron. So you have your typical travel lane. And then inside of that travel lane, usually it's a red concrete. It doesn't necessarily have to be. We can make it a different color, but it's about another 12-foot wide. And it's to allow the trailer of the truck to kind of ride up on that. However, generally speaking, whether it's truck traffic or whether it's just regular vehicles, it really increases the safety in terms of severity of accidents. So you might find that you have some sideswipe accidents, but what it's reducing, and what we saw at 24th Street, was that most of the accidents happening there were more like T-bone accidents. And those are the ones that we worry about, because those are the ones where we see people getting very seriously injured or potentially fatalities. So that's the main point of the roundabout, is to reduce those severe accidents. And it is across the board.
Do you also know if this will reduce the posted speed limits? Will those change with this, or incrementally or differently, or?
So it would generally work as a traffic calming, although the reduction in the speed limit would be something that the city would actually have to change. So
Okay.
our recommendation would be to sign that this entire corridor no more than 35 miles per hour, starting kind of within that first roundabout. But that would be something the city would need to go
If I-
through, changing the speed
If I
limit.
recall correctly, it doesn't change to, it's 45 and it hits 35, it's past 20th, it's into
Yeah,
where the concrete plant's at, if I recall correctly, right? Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
What, yeah, that was all the questions I had.
If we were to apply for this grant during this round and say we did it for 100% and we did not receive it, I'm assuming then we would have an opportunity maybe next year to go back and do like, maybe if we felt like we wanted to do a larger contribution at that point. Is that how it works, or?
Yep, absolutely. So you can apply for the grant more than once. That's not necessarily uncommon. The thing that you would need to do if you're going to reapply for the grant is we would want to change something in the application, and we would probably need to update some figures for you. So likely not a large cost because most of it would already be written, but just something to consider that, yeah, we could go back and we could apply for it again. The other thing I would caution is that we have every reason to believe that they're going to continue with this grant process. Obviously, they've changed the name of it, but through different administrations, it's remained essentially the same. But there's always a chance that the NOFO doesn't come out and that we don't,
Right.
the opportunity goes away. It's very unlikely.
Okay.
So yes, you could apply 2 years.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more question, if that's okay. So Becky, in one of your slides you have down under the merit criteria, the proposed project would have roundabouts at 24th and 8th, but it doesn't mention the one at 20th. Is that going to be a problem since it's not in here?
No, that is just a typo in my
A typo,
presentation.
okay.
Sorry about that. I think potentially the reason why 8th and 24th were called out and 20th wasn't is because our traffic study data showed that 8th and
Okay.
24th would see a marked improvement in safety from those, whereas we really didn't have the accident data at 20th that would indicate the need for a roundabout. It was much more, I think, precautionary on the part of the team that was advising us.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
I have another question that's primarily directed more at Matt than Becky. I guess I'm curious to know, is there any critical infrastructure that we would capture by this stuff getting tore up and being addressed?
There's not a lot of critical infrastructure on Fourth, but I do want to look at some infrastructure that is valuable for the department. So if this does go, there are some areas with some simultaneously and some water main down there that I would look at.
Okay.
So roundabouts, what do you call them, the pedestrian islands?
Yes,
Is that the right term? Okay, good.
that'll work.
Is that, I mean, that's raised pavement. Can anything be done in those plantings and, or, I'm thinking, like stormwater
Sure.
filtration and things of that nature can be done within those?
Yeah, you could potentially do that. That was something that we did discuss during the planning phases, was that there's potential to do plantings within those. You can make those green spaces, you can make them some type of rain garden. We moved away from that, based on maintenance costs related to that, and it's largely because we're concerned that when plowing, you're gonna get a lot of salt and chemicals into those, and it could be difficult for maintenance crews to be able to keep those
Yeah.
plantings looking nice.
Okay.
One other thing that we could do that isn't currently included is, for example, you could maybe do different colored concrete or something like that to just dress them up a little bit.
Okay. Alright, so now we need to figure out what we want to ask for, right? I don't see a reason not to just ask for the 100%, but that's just me. Council, what do you think?
I guess this project, you did a nice job, by the way. It all makes sense, but from a financial perspective, I don't know if the city's necessarily prepared to spend, was it 2.6 million on something that's not critical, that has a critical need behind it, at least for this year, and that's my opinion. So to me, if we're going to move forward with something like this, the 100% seems to make more sense. I've lived in a foreign country where these were common, so the safety factor is, I get it. I don't know if this intersection was necessarily designed originally to, they didn't have that idea when this was built many, many years ago. I guess I'm a little concerned with the truck traffic and, the 18-wheelers going through there, because obviously that, the 24th intersection is very prevalent with truck traffic. I mean, going to our industrial park, and so obviously that's one concern I have. But you know, if the data's there, the data's there. So I'm in favor of the 100% grant if we move forward with that.
I would agree with that. As well, 100%. Thank you.
I would also concur. Thank you for the presentation, Becky. I think, you know, the ability to get the federal grant really depends on having an innovation like roundabouts and how they meet the criteria. Wouldn't you concur with that?
I think that what we've done here, or what we've been directed to do by your committee, has really put us in a good position to be able to request those funds. So there's a lot of great things happening here in terms of safety, with both the separation of the trail and the addition of the roundabouts.
Yeah, and I really like the beautification aspect of it too. I think that just adds a lot. So I think it's a very good project, and so but I would agree that I think it'd be appropriate to go for the 100% grant funding.
I would also agree with 100%.
All right. I guess we'll move forward with applying for the grant at the 100% level and do what we can to get that to happen, whatever that may be.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief of Police is at a school function.
He is, yes.
Public Works,
He is
Jeremy's not
sick
here.
today.
Matt, city engineer.
Couple of quick things here. I know, yes, Jeremy is out sick tonight, but I know Public Works crews have been out moving drifts from all the wind that we've had yesterday, so they've been kind of running around the clock here, so thanks to them for doing that. I know it's a chore to keep everything in town clean when we have these cases, so I do want to say, so tomorrow we have crews ready to mobilize down in the surf district. We have proposed signage as well as lighting that is going to be going up on the arch. So I think that will be a very nice thing to see happen. So outside of that, we have a lot of work to get done on a lot of projects, and we're in the middle of budget season, so.
Will Buddy Holly be closed for that work on the arch?
Yes, so we're proposing to close from Highway 18 to Wesley Drive. Everything else will remain open. I am working with the Iowa DOT. They're showing 1 to 3 inches of snow, so that could pose some potential issues. So I'll be working with them first thing in the morning just to make sure we can move forward. But hoping to get that done. It could be a 2-day. I'm hoping we get it done in 1. We just may need a little bit of flexibility.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Council, anything?
It's exciting.
Director of Finance and Administrative Services, Jacob.
Thanks again, Mayor and Council. A couple things to go over tonight. First one is actually the last sheet in your packet. I know we've had some discussion in our strategic planning last fall, and then also as we've started our budget process here on just looking at our utility rates and making sure that those are keeping up with our costs, our operating costs and our capital costs. And I know from looking at the numbers a little bit, it looks like we're falling a little bit short, and so we just wanted to look at getting an outside firm's opinion on that, having them look at the rates and see, okay, are they short? How far short are they? What are some recommendations of ways that we can make up that shortfall? So I did reach out to several firms, got a couple proposals back, and I'm recommending we go with this proposal from Planscape Partners. So they are proposing to do a rate study for all of our utility funds. So that's the water fund, sewer fund, storm sewer utility, and also the solid waste collection fund. So they'll be looking at 5 years of past history, looking at shortfalls or outperformance that we've had in those funds over that period of time, And then they're gonna give us a report on, how to make those up. We're not looking at, debt service per se. We're not looking at issuing debt in those funds right now, but it's more of are we meeting our operating goals? Are we meeting our capital project goals upcoming here? So, Ron and Kathy with Planscape have done quite a bit of work for the city over the years, and have done a pretty good job for us. And so their proposal of a fixed fee of $2,500 to complete this, I think, is very reasonable. And so I'd recommend going ahead and doing that, unless you guys have any concerns with that. Or
Sounds good.
That's good.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's a very good idea, Jacob, and thank you for proposing it, because I think, honestly, I can't remember the last time we did this, or we looked at this. I don't know if anybody does remember that. Do you remember?
No, I don't,
Yeah.
but I know,
I rem-
when we're
I
doing
remember it was
budgets,
a long time ago,
Yeah.
Okay.
but it
Okay.
was like, yeah.
but
it's
the last
been
time the
over 10
water
years.
rates have been changed has been,
we have a small CIP increase on them,
Okay.
Yeah.
but it hasn't been keeping up with
Yeah.
costs. So
Yeah, and that's why I think it's just a really good idea to look at that, and then I assume they'll be making some recommendations
Yep.
based on that study. So
correct.
thank you for bringing that forward. I think that's just something that's very necessary for us to look at. So thank you, Mayor.
Perfect. I'll move forward with that, and then they're looking at trying to have that report done by the end of March here. So, the other thing is, in last year's budget process, council, you'd approved purchasing an ice skating rink for City Park down here. In discussions with Jim Jackson, our park superintendent, throughout the year, we had a couple other things come up within the parks that were high priority, and we took out the funding for that ice rink to cover some of those other high priority projects that came up, specifically the playground equipment that we put in out at the ORC. There's a group of citizens within the community here that still wanted to see that ice rink, that reached out, I want to say it was early December, asked if they did fundraising for the ice rink, if we'd be willing to let them do that, and then be able to move forward with the ice rink. So I told them yes at that point in time, and they went out and raised funds for it. They have the majority of the funds raised, and so we are going to go ahead and get that purchased. Depending on lead times and stuff, we may still get it installed this winter, but we'll have to see on how it comes in and if we're able to get that accomplished with our staffing. But I wanted to give you guys an update on that, because I know it was something that we had in the budget and then it got pulled out. But obviously it's important to some of the citizens of the community here, and I really appreciate their efforts in doing the fundraising on it, and just the people contributing to it, because I think it'll be a really neat amenity to have down in City Park down here.
Refresh my memory, Jacob. What was the city's cost on that?
So we had originally budgeted 10,000 for it, and so that's the fundraising. I want to say they're $7,500 they've raised.
Oh, wow.
So there may be a small gap that we have to cover, but I know they were still seeking a few additional contributions to cover that small gap.
Well, that's terrific, I think. Yeah, that'll look great.
Is there any concern about damage after the fact or anything like that, or is that mitigated with whatever this is being purchased? Because the city park is obviously probably the third on the list as most used in this community.
oh, like in terms of turf and.
Yeah, we don't want to see any grass or.
Yeah,
permanently.
I don't think Jim had any concerns with that. Like I said, it comes with pre-made sides, and then
Gotcha.
there's a tarp that you put down, and then we would remove that out of there before the grass starts growing in the spring. And I know originally Jim had thought maybe we could put it on the concrete right in front of the band shell. I think he's kind of moved away from that back onto the grass area, but we don't really have concerns with it wrecking the turf.
Okay, thanks.
The one other thing, I know Jeremy wasn't here tonight, but I wanted to bring it up. So we had a few weeks back an incident with one of our city loaders. They were out plowing snow with one of the snowstorms that we had, and they caught a manhole, and it did some pretty severe damage to the end loader. So we've been in discussions with our insurance company. Our insurance company did notify us last week that they were going to total it out. So we did issue an RFP for that today to John Deere and also CAT on a new loader for replacing that. Just because it's still the middle of the winter, and we would like to get a new loader on the road as soon as possible to help replace that. So at next council meeting, we're hoping to bring that before you to review those bids and approve it. And like I said, insurance will be covering the cost on it. So it's a good situation when you have insurance that covers that, because it's a pretty high dollar ticket item. So.
All right, thanks, Jacob.
Yep. Any questions on anything else?
All right. Mayor's report. Stacy, Clear Lake Area Chamber of Commerce CEO.
I'm excited to hear about the ice rink. I love it when our community members are passionate about something and take the initiative to raise funds, make things happen. That's pretty cool. So excited about that. I guess my biggest update is that last week we had our annual meeting. It's our largest member gathering of the year. We had over 240 attendees in the surf ballroom, and we gave out some really great awards. The Larry Luker Volunteer of the Year went to Taylor Barrigy. The First Mate of the Year went to Drew Walswick. The Spirit of North Iowa Award went to North Iowa Community Action Organization. Entrepreneur of the Year went to Europlace. Business of the Year went to Starboard. And Service Above Self, a one-time special award, went to former Mayor Nelson Krabs. So thanks to those of you who were able to make it and for your support of the chamber as always. It's really fun to always kind of reflect on the previous year and all of the things that were accomplished. So with that, we're working with the surf to promote the winter dance party, and then Color the Wind's right around the corner. And I'm not even going to talk about ice conditions, because I've made that mistake where I've talked about how great they are, and then it gets really warm, and then, you know, we're dancing with ice conditions. So we've got a great safety team. We'll keep our eye on it and report more as we get closer to the event. Any questions?
When is Color the Wind?
February 21st.
21st, okay.
My birthday eve, if you want to buy me a present.
Doubtful.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. City Administrator, Steve Deers.
Yeah, just wanted to update on the process for filling the vacant council seat. So we took applications. Those were due last Friday at noon into the city clerk's office, and we received 2 applications. So now we need to decide, I guess, if we're going to move forward with that, which is the direction we've indicated, but we then need to talk about how we want to move forward with interviews. We talked about interviewing the candidates, so we have 2 candidates, so it's a pretty small number. The timeline that we've kind of have laid out is that we would, by the end of January, we would publish that public notice that would allow us, put us in the position that by February 17th, we'd be able to make the appointment. So sometime, I guess is what I'm saying, is sometime those first couple weeks of February, probably need to find a time to do the interviews, however you'd like to do those. I would suggest maybe we do that as a Teams interview. Might make work best for everyone involved, but certainly I guess when I get your feedback, and but that would allow us to, like I said, get that position filled by the 17th. That date then begins that 14-day time period. You know, if anybody wants to contest it to force a special election, and so we'd go through that process as it develops. But good news is we have 2 people that have applied, and we have to look for a time to set up some interviews.
So those interviews will be everyone in the council interviewing at the one time?
That's what I anticipated.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So maybe we'll just work on gathering some dates of when everybody's going to be available, and as well as the applicants too, and see if we can find a couple times at work.
I know I prefer in person over Teams, but
Okay.
I don't know how everyone else feels.
I would agree with that, Mayor. Yeah, I'd rather do this in person with them.
I think it's important that we do that.
Okay. Very good. Well, I will. I'll be reaching out to all of you. We'll figure out some dates and just kind of go from there. Otherwise, I guess the other thing just to mention is we started doing watershed interviews for the watershed coordinator here today, and so hopefully continue that in the next few days and hopefully get that position filled here in the not too distant future.
Council, any questions of Steve? All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Anything else, council?